are certain things or beliefs that essentially all Amish agree on. For example, things like not doing business on Sunday, or wearing plain clothing of some kind, or not fighting in wars, being non-resistant. These are things that pretty much all Amish across the board are going to have as part of their core tradition, belief, culture. But then there are the exceptions. But that doesn't mean that these groups with exceptions aren't Amish. They just have a little different way of doing things. So let's take a look at 10 things that certain Amish do differently from most other Amish. Number 1, church meeting houses. So the vast majority of Amish are going to hold church worship service at their homes. And that could be in a large space like a basement. It could be in a workshop that's been cleared out, and you have a place for the church benches to be set up. It could even be in a barn or another structure on the property. The Amish generally do not build church buildings. However, there is a small minority of Amish who do build church meeting houses. One example of such a community would be the group at Somerset County, Pennsylvania. This is actually the second oldest Amish community in the country. They're quite a small group, but they do have a number of meeting houses there, and that's a tradition that they've had for many years. So most Amish believe that a church structure is unnecessary, and that's why they use pre-existing spaces that they already have. But there are some Amish who, through their history, through their culture, they developed in a different direction. And those are still Amish, they just do things a little different way. Number 2, beards. So where do we find exceptions when it comes to beards? The common perception is that Amish begin growing a beard once they've gotten married. So if you see an Amish male who doesn't have a beard, that's an indication that he's not married. And in most places that is the case, but some churches have a different custom. For example, some Amish young men start growing a beard at baptism. Others will grow a beard after marriage and moving into their own home. And you'll also see Amish that are unmarried that have beards, the custom being that they would start growing a beard after reaching a certain age, for example, the age of 40. So in some cases, even unmarried Amish are going to sport a beard. Number 3, public electricity. So the vast majority of Amish will still reject any connection to the electric grid. However, there's a small minority group of Amish, maybe 1%, 2% of all Amish, probably not even that, known as the Electric New Order Amish, who do permit public power connections to their homes. Okay, so that would differ from most all other Amish who are going to be using other sources of power in their homes. Often battery power, but for lighting and things like that, many Amish will use fossil fuels, kerosene, naphtha, liquid propane, other fuels. You can check out the video I did on that topic for more. Additionally, in some communities, there have been some exceptions made for public power to business structures that are owned by Amish business people. So you'll see that in some of the more progressive communities that if it's not the home, but you may be operating even like a tourist business where you need to have public power, then it might be okay to have a connection to the business. Or in some cases, Amish businesses might lease a building that's owned by a non-Amish person that has public power connected to it. But that's the businesses. Number 4, the slow-moving vehicle triangle. Now, most Amish buggies are going to carry this triangle as a safety feature. However, among the very plainest Amish, there are still groups who reject this insignia or symbol or whatever you want to call it. And sometimes that's the objection where they'll say that, well, this is a man-made symbol, or it's a very showy, bright symbol that we don't want to have on our buggies. Some Amish profess that they just want to trust in God, and when it's their time, it's their time. The best known group that rejects the slow-moving vehicle triangle is known as the Trooper Amish. Number 5, the camera. Now, it's pretty commonly known that Amish do not pose for photographs. However, if you look around enough, you will find Amish that seem to be perfectly comfortable posing for the camera. For example, here's an interview with an Amishman named Joseph Yoder, which he did for an Illinois television station talking about Amish beliefs. I've seen photographs of Amish on numerous occasions where they were clearly posing for the camera. The objection there is that posing for photos is a sign of pride in the individual. Not all Amish necessarily are going to agree with that. Some Amish do, of course, pose for their identification cards. Children, of course, is another story. Amish tend to be more permissive about children in photographs. And, in general, certain more progressive churches may be more accepting of the camera as well. Number 6, alcohol. Generally, the Amish do not consume large amounts of alcohol. However, there are examples of communities where alcohol use in larger quantities and even abuse is not unheard of, not uncommon necessarily. And that would be not just among youth, but also among even adults in some cases. So, a lot of Amish will maybe consume some alcohol like homemade wine for, health purposes. Wine is consumed in most Amish churches for the communion service. But it's not, I wouldn't call the Amish like a heavy drinking culture in any way, but of course there are exceptions to that, and you'll see that in some communities. Number 7, raising tobacco. Now, most Amish farmers do not raise tobacco. However, in the community of Lancaster County and some of its spin-off settlements, there is a long-standing tradition of raising tobacco. That's not the only community that does it, but that's probably the best known one. And other Amish, some other Amish speak out against this practice. But for those Amish, especially in Lancaster County, where farmland is so expensive, it's an important cash crop. Number 8, no hired drivers. So this is an exception because most Amish will hire drivers for longer distance travel. For example, if you need to, travel to a wedding out of state, maybe your brother or your cousin is getting married 2 states over, you can't get there by buggy. There's also regular hiring of drivers for situations where you have a job site that's out of buggying distance. So, some Amish that work in Pennsylvania Dutch markets, that may be an hour drive away, they need to hire someone for that. Another classic example it would be Amish builders. Now they're probably going to have someone on the payroll who drives them to job site and back. And you also hire drivers for large shopping trips, for example, large trips to grocery stores, to Costco, to Walmart. But one group in particular does not permit hiring drivers for those kinds of things, and that would be the Schwarzentrooper Amish. So that's more just for a emergency situation in those cases. If Schwarzentrooper Amish want to travel long distances, and of course they have the same networks where they have communities and contacts in different states, far distances, they're going to travel by train or by Greyhound bus typically, okay, and then figure it out from there. Number 9, I call this an exception. It's volunteer firefighting. And this is a tradition or a practice that's seen, I would say, primarily in Lancaster County, also some of its sister settlements, of heavy Amish participation in the local volunteer firefighting companies. And these are small community firehouses that are located throughout Lancaster County and even beyond it. And a lot of the makeup of those volunteer forces are Amish or Mennonites or plain people. And that's something that's been going on a long time. This is what the mud sales, if you've ever heard of those auctions generate a lot of money for the annual budget for those firehouses. Now, this tradition of volunteer firefighting, it's not really something I've seen much of outside of that sort of the Lancaster County and that circle of Amish. Though, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but this is an example of civic involvement that's common in this group, and just not the same tradition in other places. Finally, number 10, assurance of salvation. Now, most Amish do not profess assurance of salvation, a certainty of knowing, where your soul will be when you die, to give a very a crude description of the belief. But most Amish will hold what they might call a living hope of salvation. However, there's a certain group within the Amish known as the New Order Amish churches, which do profess this belief of assurance of salvation. And you may also see this belief popping up in some other churches as well, or sympathy toward this belief in churches that are not New Order churches. So there you have 10 exceptions to common Amish belief, custom, tradition, seen in different communities. Those would all be minority practices. Those churches who do those things are still Amish, They're just different ways of being Amish. These are exceptions to rules, exceptions to norms, however you want to call it. I think it's one of the things that makes, Amish society very interesting. There are things that unite Amish. I mentioned some of those things at the beginning of the video, but there are also a lot of things that have developed in different ways and just reflects the diversity across Amish society. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you liked the video, hit like for me. Hit subscribe to get more videos like this. Let me know in the comments what you thought, and I'll talk to you soon.